Hello and welcome back to the worst War Machine channel on the internet. I checked, it is. I'm Malorian and it's time for another War Machine Weekly. Now in this one here, as usual, we have a topic brought to you by the patrons. I look every single week there on Patreon. I put out the options for them, give them 4 every week. They vote which one they want. But this one in particular was actually suggested by a patron as well, patron Andrew. And what the topic is going to be is, where are we sitting with Soldiers of Fortune post-dynamic update? Now, if you don't know what this theme is, I won't blame you. It hasn't really been slightly in the meta for a long time. If we look way back, sure, I saw a few players playing it. We had, good old Corey Doyle here in BC doing fairly well with a Magnus list with a whole bunch of Steelheads. And once I say that, you're like, all right, Soldiers of Fortune, that is the Steelhead faction in Mercenaries. And like I said, it used to be very strong. For starters, you used to get 21 free points. For your 3 free solos, you'd be taking Stannis, you'd be taking Alexia 2, and you'd also be taking Iris. Boom, get all these points. Fantastic. Then you can take some very cheap infantry that can run up there and get in the way or do some work. Go with Magnus, lock things down, and then either win on scenario or send in a Jax to win. Yeah, it did really well. Then some competition came. You had the Infernals come and all the Archons. All the Infernals are wanting to see infantry. They want the souls to put the essence on their casters. So sure, go ahead. I'll kill you off. I'll take your essence. And if I really want to kill you fast, Hellmouth, sprays all over the place. You have the Archons are going in there with the things like the Void Archons, punch, teleport, spray. They're just killing off all these types of infantry. It was a real bad time. So you really saw this theme move away already. Then this dynamic update comes. And I think at first glance, it seems even worse because we didn't really gain anything. Nothing changed on the theme that says, now you get this extra rule or now you have these extra options. It really got weaker because one of the main ones there that said you get to take a solo is now having to be 5 points or less. So those 21 free points that we used to take is now down to 15-ish? And yeah, so we're in an anti-infantry meta, and we got less value. Where are we going with this, Malorian? It seems all bad. Well, I can make it worse. Since a lot of infantry got better, then that means that there'll be more people looking for anti-infantry. So you might see more anti-infantry than before. However, I will say as a little silver lining there is that some of those things, like the Death Archon, like the Void Archon that we talked about, got more expensive. Things got tuned around. So maybe you won't be seeing as much as you did before. We're going to see where this meta lands. But with that, and I mean, we could just stop now and be like, oh, it's all garbage. Yeah, I'm going to throw my phone. I'll never play it. I'm going to look to my other themes. We got other stuff in Mercenaries, right? We got our Irregulars. We still got Strange Bedfellows. It's great. We got Lealese. Even Talion's really good. Why would I be looking at Soldiers of Fortune? Well, let's actually look at them and maybe something will tease its way out. Now, when we first look here at the theme and what we can actually be doing with it, we have to be looking at what benefits we're getting because maybe that would kind of lead us around. Now, the first thing that I want to point out here is what you can take for rec options. Yes, the solos is now down to 5 points or less, but we can also take a Steelhead weapon crew or 2 Steelhead gunner solos. So there are ways there to be getting 6 points rather than 5. Okay, that's something. For our special rules, Ace, if you take it, it's a mercenary, sure. Solos get marked target. Oh, well, that's really good. If you have a solo that runs out and gets within 5 inches of an enemy model and is within its line of sight, other things shooting that gets +2 to shoot. Oh, okay, so we get good weapon crews. We also get mark the target. What's the last thing here? Okay, well, the last thing is Steelhead cavalry models get bulldoze. So this was used before when you got your free Stannis, or maybe you take your cav unit, a mini unit or something. If you're going for that scenario game, bump, push things away. Sure, yeah, why not? You can even bump, then repo back, and then the halberdiers rush in. Okay, yeah, we did that tech before, but still in our mind that maybe we do something with it now. Well, now let's look at our rec options. If we're not taking that free 21 points, what are actually the big things here that we can take? And the first thing to look at there is going to be those weapon crews, those steelhead weapon crews. And the first one here is one that I really feel that people are sleeping on, and that's going to be the steelhead cannon crew. This is one where I've told a few people, like, if you have access to this, it might be worth it to you. And let's get to why. So for starters, it's 6 points, so value town. Also, it's going to be a range 14, POW 14, AoE 3. Okay, Brian, you got this little piece of artillery that does a little AoE 3 POW 14 that's not very spicy. Well, for starters, it has brutal damage. So you know how when you're looking over like other mercenary stuff and you have the Rulik one that you take with like Osram and it's doing tons of damage because it has brutal damage and you can put on things like, you know, fire for effect. Well, this is exactly the same. In fact, this theme is open to all mercenary casters, so you could be taking Osram in here and doing really exactly the same thing. Except there is another rule on this piece of artillery, which is Quake. So on a direct hit, all models hit are knocked down. And this is AoE 3. So you can go and try and shoot something that's going to be, you know, like a jack that's easy to hit because our rat is low here, right? Our rat is going to be just 5. Hey, we can mark the target, maybe get a +2, maybe aim and get +2. But the main thing here is that if somebody leaves a high defense something by a low defense something, we shoot the low defense, get them both in the AoE, and they're both knocked down. Okay, well, that's pretty cool. What's the other things we can be taking here? Well, we also said those 2 gunner crews. So what are, sorry, not the gunner crews, the 2 steelhead gunners. And so what they are those, remember, we can take 2 of these for a single choice, 3 points each. So there's our 6-point value town. And first of all, they have desperate pace. So if you want your artillery to be threatening another 2 inches, well, it lets them move another 2 inches. So if we're assuming you're not aiming, it's basically +2 range. The other thing it has here is siege tactics. Oh, so if we're ever shooting something now with that artillery against something with a huge base, it's getting an extra dice of damage. Again, we see these type of tactics done with Osram, and the same thing can be done here. So that with Osram and this, shooting a huge base, you're rolling 5 dice damage. If you don't have Osram and you're using anyone else and you have these other parts, well, 4 dice damage, which is amazing. You also have Veteran Leader, so that all these steelhead weapon crews are getting +1 to their attack rolls. Okay, well, that's helping out more again. And yeah, that's a pretty good value option that's kind of like helping the other stuff we have. Now, of course, we have all the other solos here too, but I think the other 6.1 that I really want to be pointing out is going to be the steelhead volley gun. This is your other 6-point option, and I don't feel it's as good as the other one, but I think in a combination, it might be all right. Now, what it is again, 6 points value, and you get to have a range 12, POW 12 gun that has D3 +1 shots. So between 2 and 4 shots, on average 3. Now, that's not the best. It's okay. But the big thing here is that on top of that, it also has volume fire. So if you're shooting something with a medium base, then it's going to be POW 13s. If it has a large base or larger, then it's a POW 14. Okay, so 3 shots each, POW 14s. It'd be really nice, though, if it could hit. Like, that's the problem, is the hitting part. Oh, if we go and knock something down first, that would be really easy. Oh, okay. And then if we have nothing else to do, it also has covering fire, so I can go and put down a template to try and protect my gun line. Okay, I kind of see where we're going with this here. So if we're looking at this and saying that maybe the future of Soldiers of Fortune is not all of that infantry, but it's more so in the guns, well, what could we actually do with that? Well, let's go and look first, I think, at the casters. What casters can we take in this theme that really would help a gun line? Well, the first one that comes up here would be Ashland 1. Ashland 1's feat really makes it so that all your models are rolling 2 extra dice to hit, and then you're picking which ones to drop, so it really makes sure that you're going to be hitting. Maybe this is overkill, because if we're already building in knockdown tech, then once it's knocked down, you're not really getting the benefit from all the rest. But hey, if you want to really make sure that first knockdown hits, that's a good option. Other gun line things in here would be things like Kane 3 and Bart, but those are really things that are good gun lines when they have a battle group. So sure, maybe we just take the rec options to kind of like set up the battle group. That could actually be a way to go. If we're talking about Kane 3, we can't do the tessellator thing, so that's unfortunate. But with Bart, I guess we could take a Bart list with, say, like lots of Mariners, try and knock something down, and then just like shoot, broadside. Okay, there might be something there. That seems kind of janky. What else do we have in here? Well, we have Captain Damiano. Okay, well, Captain Damiano has Deadeye, helps you hit, also has its own little like Paymaster things for money shot, so +2 to range, attack, and damage rolls. It can be doing that 5 times to different things there on the board. Okay, that's another possible one as well. That one could do all right. Looking through here, though, maybe Awesome. We talked about that fire for effect, but it's really just helping those one guns there for that little amount. We have Cross, where we could be getting running gun. But then the one that really catches my eye is Magnus 2. Now, the reason why Magnus 2 grabs my eye is, one, it's one of my favorite casters, if not the favorite caster, so that's why it comes up. But there's 2 other things that Magnus does for a gun line. The first of which is going to be the feat. So normally when you think of Magnus, it's locking you down so that you can't contest scenario, or so that I'm locking you down so I'm getting the alpha with my blockader or whatever else I'm taking. However, what it does for a gun line is locks you down so I can shoot again. Classically, one of the problems with gun lines is that like I get 1 turn of shooting and then you're engaging me and my shooting is over. And I'm also in a weird spot where I want to move up to get into scenario, but if I do that, it's just making it easier for you to tie me up. So Magnus fixes that for a gun line. I can go up and I can shoot. I can get into the zones even, and then I can pop feet to lock you down. You can't engage me, and then in return, I shoot you again. And then hopefully, after 2 rounds of shooting, you're in a spot now where I can maybe finish you off type thing. Now, the other interesting thing that Magnus does for a gun line is that Magnus actually has like a special character jack that only Magnus can take. It's not a character, it's actually FA2, but it has a rule that it can only be taken by a Magnus Warcaster, so it's basically a character if you think like it's restricted only to this one. Now, what that is the Renegade. And the Renegade has a very, very good gun. It is the Obliterator, and it is range 14, POW 16, AoE 4, and this thing has arcing fire and knockdown. So if you were hoping the knockdown with that other thing, imagine taking this jack where you can boost a hit, it's a larger AoE, and this is not Quake. If this thing misses and scatters, it's still going to be knocking things down. So very, very good if you're trying to set up for that gun line. Now, it is 1 shot, so that's a bad thing. You kind of have to pick your time. You don't just go ahead and take a shot every single time because you know like that first turn, like maybe I'll scatter. No, you don't do that with this. But when you do have that 1 shot, man, it is very, very powerful. Now, the other thing that you can also do here with Renegade is that it's also an arc node. Well, what does that mean for Magnus? Well, Magnus, you probably know, has like escort and things like that. But did you know that it also had Calamity? So if you want to make sure that you can go down there and like really kill a target, you can go up with the Renegade, shoot something, knock it down, and now that it's in range, go with Magnus, arc through a Calamity, feed as well, lock things down, and now your other guns, oh boy, the thing's knocked down, you're getting +2 to hit, but you're hitting on double ones anyway, and then the damage is also at +2. And again, Magnus might as well because it's not going to be using the focus for a lot of other things. You're probably going to still do the escort so that that Renegade can go faster. But yeah, you know, like you're going to have the focus in this style of list to actually do a Calamity. Okay. We have now dedicated to saying that this Soldiers of Fortune list is going to be a gun line and it's going to be more set for like knock you down, finish you off. Well, what else are we going to be taking here to do that? Well, I think, again, we want to be looking to those cannon crews, maybe also looking at those volley guns. Again, if we knock something down, we can really put a lot of shots into something to finish it off. And again, if it's, POW 13 or whatever, like those things will add up. Either way, it's a pretty good value of shots for what you're doing. Talking about value of shots, let's also talk about a new thing that we now have available to us, and that's going to be Princess Dolores Gracilia? I don't know. I don't know how to say the name. It's the princess with all the guns and like the bazooka and all those other things. She is perfect for this style of list. One, because she has the bazooka that has momentum. So funny enough, sometimes your opponents are smart and they stay outside the 20 inches so that Magnus can't, pop feet and charge forward and catch them. But when you have this, you can shoot your own Magnus in the back and slam it forward D3 inches, you'll be knocked down. But now your opponents are like, damn, I don't know what you're going to roll. So I almost have to stay, if I want to be safe, 23 inches away. Or maybe they just don't even realize this. They're like, ha ha ha, I'm 20.1. And you're like, okay, slam forward. Now you're all caught. And now you're in real lot of trouble. Now, this is not just for the shenanigans of shooting your own caster. There is also the fact that she has a lot of guns. If you haven't looked at this card yet, it is wild. It's not a free option. It's 6 points. We're going to have to pay for this one. But you have the bazooka that we talked about, the range 12, power 14, momentum gun. You have 2 mini sluggers that are range 10, power 11, but each one is, that one there is going to be getting 2d3 shots. So, and it's always having as well the royal pistols, which are just basically 2 handguns that are magical. Now, you do have cumbersome on here, which is a problem when we're looking here for, firing all those things. But you can also do this like mini feat so that you get to shoot everything in that turn. So a lot of guns off of this. And in order to take it, though, we have to take something Ordic. Well, we still had room on Magnus. So why don't we just go ahead and take those 2 Renegades, and then we'll take a Toro, because, okay, we're making a gun line, but we still have to kill some things off. So we'll take a Toro that lets us take the princess, and then the princess also has veteran leader Ordic. So now that Toro is a Mat 7 Jack. All right, these things are kind of like, we're seeing the synergies coming together. Now, what are some other things that we can be taking in here? Well, I think a very good thing we want to take, like I said, is like that Alexia and the Risen. It'll give you that solos to put out there for cheap for all the marked target. And even though you have the feet to protect you, that won't always protect you. So you can have the Risen standing in front too, to kind of being that buffer, or at the very least, something to be going into zones to try and lock them down. Plus, Alexia has a gun too. Don't forget that. She has a gun that she can go and boost using those actual thralls. So don't forget that you have that with you too. Now, as long as we're doing this, something else I think you might want to be considering that you probably forgot exists is Steelhead Riflemen. Now, Steelhead Riflemen are 13 points, so 2 more points than the halberdiers that you normally see, but they have guns. They're range 12, POW 11 guns, so not super crazy, but they have 2 rules that are very important. First one is that they have combined range, so if they all want to go up, you can do a big, huge POW 21 shot. Okay, that's pretty good. But they also have combined arms, so that when you do a combine in any way, you get to re-roll the hit. Okay, that helps. But there's also War Tempered, which allows them to combine range attack into something that's engaged. So normally, if some things come up and get engaged, you have a hard time trying to clear those things out, because your other things trying to shoot it are going to be, they're getting +4 defense, so that's a problem. And if you can't kill it, they're probably going to kill your Risen and then get to you next turn, and you're kind of stuck. You're like, I got AoE guns. I'm not going to shoot that into my Risen. I'm going to be slaughtering my own things. Well, with these guys here, not only can they be doing some work and combining and shooting down whatever you need, but also whatever is coming into your Risen, they'll be like, yeah, sure, let's do this. Now, again, they're still engaged, so they're getting +4 defense. However, you're able to combine into there, which is already going to mitigate that as well. Plus, don't forget you have Mark Target. So between Mark the Target and Aim, you already are counteracting that 4 swing and defense, and then of course you're combined ranging, so that's already going to be raising you up as well. So you could be doing that and be like, sure, run up, engage me, okay, they're dead, let's just keep on going. this is a unit that, I mean, you might want to take one unit, you might want to take two, but it really is something that going with this whole gun line thing, I really think you should be considering. Another thing to be considering in here as well would be Blith and Bull. They now go and knock things down. So if you want to have more knockdown on top of knockdown, that's a good option. But I feel it might actually be too much, because if we're already going to be taking the cannons and also the renegades, look, if they can be knocked down, they're going to be knocked down. Now, this is where I want to talk about another thing, which is, what if they can't be knocked down? What if they use the objective and say, I'm going to use the one that I can't be knocked down, and now I guess can't kill your caster? That's a problem. Or maybe they were running a list that has a theme benefit or something else in it that makes it so that things can't be knocked down. That's a lot of points that I put in here that was assuming you're going to be like Def 5. That's now not going to happen. Well, let's look at another option. Just like how we have the Princess, we also now have Malvin. So Malvin, not Malvin and Mayhem, not that one. This is now just regular Goblin Malvin. This is another one that's 5 points I think people are sleeping on because it has a stationary gun. And this stationary gun has multiple formats you can be shooting it. It could be range 8, AoE 3, it can be a spray, you know, like there's different things you could be doing this with its range modulator, and what this really gives you then is another out, so that if you're up against something that can't be knocked down, then just stationary it. And I mean, really, with an AoE and all that stuff, like sprays are cool to stationary many things, but if you really want to make sure, just walk up, get in range so that the AoE can't scatter off. Boop. Okay, you're stationary. I'm good to go. Now, in order to take this, though, we have to take a Gobber. And the only real Gobber option that we have in here is Dez and Gubbin. This is another 5-point option, but it has a great gun. It is range 16, POW 14, AoE 4, it scatters and does a second one, and we can basically be doing a mini feat on it so that we're really like shooting out Gubbin at that point. And then what that does is makes it so that it has it all being boosted damage. So if we're looking for something for a good gun, this is fine, right? If I want to knock something down and then try and shoot it with a boosted POW 14 gun, sure, this is doing it. And then this is also allowing us to be getting Malvin as well. So I think this is something you should be considering. Apart from that, then, that list kind of fills up very quickly. If your battle group is going to be the Renegades and the Toros, you are using your rec points on those cannons, the steelheads, the two gunners. If you're putting in some of that infantry, if you want to be putting in Alexia, if you want to be putting in the volley guns, if you want to be putting in Princess and Dez and Malvin, like that's actually kind of like a list right there already. And it looks maybe a little bit weak because if you look at any one piece of it, it's like, oh, you got Riflemen with POW 10s and you got volley guns with POW 12s and you got a couple of POW 14s, but okay, big deal. That actually might work in your favor. It might work where they're like, okay, well, let's go. I'm just going to run at you. And they're going to walk into your trap. And then they're going to realize that maybe their caster was in danger and you just knock them down and wipe them out. Or maybe you go and you pop your feet and you go in there and you shoot them and you shoot them again. Or maybe you save your feet. Maybe you go and you shoot and you knock things down. They're like, okay, there's this medium infantry that I can't kill right now, but Renegade, pew! Okay, they're knocked down. So at the very, least, they're not going to be charging me. They can walk up, but I'm buying myself a turn to shoot these other things down. And meanwhile, you still have this one Toro that's going to be Mat 7, it's going to be Armor 20 because of Magnus, and it can be putting to bed whatever little heavies can't be dealt with these other things. And again, I think the real focus here is going to be assassination, but you can attrition if you need as well. So I think that's the future of this list. I think that we're no longer, you still could try all the things with the halberdiers. I think there's still a place of that, especially with Magnus for like a scenario play, but there will be a lot of anti-infantry. And meanwhile, if we're looking at what's on the theme and what's now available to us, well, the value we're getting is we're taking 6-point, weapon teams or gunners that support the weapon teams. We have the special rules that's giving us mark the target. We now have things like Princess and Malvin that we can be taking in here. It really seems like Privateer Press is trying to tell us, like, take the guns. This is supposed to be all the cannons. Come on, shoot, shoot, shoot. And I think that's actually a viable way to go. So there you go, Andrew. This was your question there. Hopefully you like this answer. Hopefully for any mercenary players out there, you're like, wow, you know what? I didn't consider these things. But then again, maybe I'm wrong. So if I'm wrong and you think that, well, you're forgetting about this or whatever else, please put that down below. Or maybe you have another idea. You're like, okay, Malorian, I get what you're saying, but if I was going to be building Soldiers of Fortune, I think this is actually the new, better way to do it post-update. Please put that down below. I love having these conversations. Otherwise, I want to be thanking all my patrons. I am a little bit down from what I was before, so if you're interested, go check it out. But, you know, for my Overlord Darrell, thank you, and all my manipulators, Adrian, who did this one, Andrew, Dorian, Jordan, Kieran, and Sloth Monarchy, and all the other ones as well. Thank you very much. I'm always great to have these conversations where they're like janky and different, but either way, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you later. Bye.